Lacrosse is the specialty topic on this edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum. Sherm Chester, joined this week by Sam Bruno, and our special guest this week is Coach Jim Tufts. And Coach, we're going to start off with you. We interviewed all the teams during their tryouts. The one team we weren't able to get in touch with until after the fact was the boys lacrosse team. And we finally did track them down and get a good interview with the head coach, Matt Brewster, and also a couple of the captains. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But before we go there, you are a lacrosse official, and I want you to give us, the novices, basically a lacrosse 101 primer.
Okay. So there are 9 field players plus a goalie that play at one time. And you can have 6 divide the field in half. You can have 6 on offense and 6 on defense, 6 field players. So there's an interchange there. So there are attacking players, defending players, and midfield players who fill both roles. And within the midfield, there are defined roles too. There are offensive midfielders and defensive midfielders. So there's a lot of interchange, like a hockey game, with kids running on and running off and running on and running off. And officials kind of have to pay attention to, do you have the right numbers? Do you have people in the right places? But offensively, it's 6 versus 6. Defensively, it's 6 versus 6. And there's a whole lot of transition in between. So lacrosse is, so it's interesting. I had been a baseball guy. My son Kyle played baseball, high school, Legion, all the way up through, and went off to college to play baseball. And Billy and Dave Shannon got me into officiating. And lacrosse is a great combination of, it was easy for me to pick up because it's a great combination of basketball, soccer, hockey, in all the different facets. You set picks and run off of picks the way you would in a basketball game. You change on the fly, and people are both offensive players and defensive players the way you are in hockey. You know, that you just have defensemen that go forward and score goals. The transitions that you get in soccer. You know, in soccer, you hear coaches all the time talking about valuing the ball and not turning it over, basketball and soccer. So there's a lot of play in the midfield, which then leads to offense. Or if you make a mistake, it's transition, and all of a sudden you're back on defense. So under the tutelage of Billy Ball and Dave Shannon, it was relatively easy for me to pick up because it's a great combination of soccer, hockey, basketball, in the way it flows. But the basics of it are, there are 3 attack, 3 defense, 3 midfielders, but everybody's interchangeable. But at no time can you have more than 6 attacking or more than 6 defending. So coaches and officials are sort of, and athletes are paying attention to the transition. You know, who's going, who's staying, what role you have, and just the same with the other sports, roles change.
Now, what about penalties now? I mean, blow a whistle for what?
So there are the common things, out of bounds, and things like that, goals. But you have 2 particular kinds of fouls. Technical fouls are 30-second violations. So offsides, illegal procedure. Maybe I caught the ball with my free hand. Maybe I pushed the player away with my free hand. Maybe I pushed another player on the back while they were running away from me. Those are technical fouls, and they're served in 30-second increments.
Okay.
Or if the attacking team were to commit a technical foul, all they do is lose the ball. There's no time serving. They simply lose the ball and the other team gets it. Personal fouls become a minute, 2 minutes, or 3 minutes, depending on the severity of the violation. So if I whack your stick with my stick, we're playing. If I whack you with my stick, I might get a slashing penalty for a minute. If I tee up and I whack you in the side of the head, I might go for 2 minutes. Tripping, cross check. So there are two kinds of fouls: technical fouls, which are 30-second or loss of the ball, and personal fouls, which are 1, 2, or 3 minutes. Yeah. And if they're really bad violations, if they're really egregious, I can actually lock you in so that you have to serve the entirety of the penalty. So similar to a 5-minute major in hockey. If I were to, really have an egregious foul, we had one yesterday in a game, locked a player in for 2 minutes. So regardless of the number of goals that were scored, that player was going to serve the entire 2 minutes. So that's a quick study.
Oh, that was good. It sounds like you say, a combination of all the sports, and especially one that you've been familiar with over the years of hockey too, right?
Yeah. So this was 06, Kyle was a freshman up at UVM playing baseball, and Billy came in and was struggling to get officials here, officials there. And I looked at him, I said, Billy, I can officiate. I officiate lots of things, but you got to teach me something about lacrosse. He said, you're going with Dave Shannon tomorrow. And I did it 2 or 3 days with Dave, and that was that.
And now you're hooked.
I'll do 60 to 100 games this spring.
Wow. Well, Sam, our Blue Hawk boys team is off to a red hot start. We'll feature that interview in just a few minutes, but you give the folks a perspective of what the guys have been doing, and the girls team for that matter.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Going into this show today, the Blue Hawks are coming off a tough loss, but was against Bishop Girton, who is perennially in the finals every year. They lost to the Cardinals this week. Blue Hawks are still on top by half a game. They're 9-1. Bishop Girton is 8-1. So again, my personal feeling is when you play a top team like the Cardinals, don't take a loss in the regular season too seriously. A loss in the playoffs means a lot more. So you had a practice game, and you hopefully there will be a repeat in the Division I finals coming up later in the season. Right behind those two teams, Nashua South at 7-1 and Pinkerton at 6-3. Who that's another team that is always a team to reckon with down the stretch. Over on the girls' side, the Exeter girls right in the middle of the pack. They're at 5-3. Best teams in the state going into today's show. Bedford at 9-0 and Bishop Girton at 8-0. So certainly Girton, the powerhouse in the state as far as lacrosse is concerned. But hopefully the Blue Hawks under new coach Matt Brewster have something cooking right now.
Well, why don't we do this? We had an interview with Coach Brewster and a couple of the players at Exeter High last week, and why don't we cut to that interview right now? Well, one of 3 new coaches in spring sports for the Exeter Blue Hawks, Matt Brewster, taking over the successful boys lacrosse program from a legend, Jerry Hawley. And man, you've got yourself a juggernaut.
Yeah, we're having fun. I have a lot of good players, a great group of kids, and they've really bought into what we're trying to do, and it's been a lot of fun.
Would you have a certain philosophy to get the best out of these guys?
I want to play fast, and I want to play together. I want to set each other up. That's the best way, in my opinion, is that the faster we play and, the more that we can find each other and set each other up, it brings a team aspect to the whole game.
And as far as offensive talent, you got a lot of scoring going on.
Yeah, we're scoring a lot of goals, which is good. But that's not how it's going to go every single game. But if we can, work on, and we come out and execute what we want to do every game, then I can say that we were successful for that.
And the other thing is your defense is important too. You got a good goal.
Oh yeah, we've two very, very strong goaltenders, and I think the most goals we get up is 6, which is good. So if we score more than 10 and give up less than 6, it's pretty good odds for us. Yeah, absolutely. So we got number 9 is Adam Neal, is senior captain, midfielder, and then 18 is Roger Smythe, senior captain as well, defenseman.
Great way to start a season.
For sure.
And as captains, you got a lot on your shoulders to keep things focused out there on the field. And he asked for his philosophy. What's your philosophy out there when you're playing?
Personally, I just want to see less flaws each week, and I think we've been doing that pretty well. We're kind of last couple of games, it's hard to keep the intensity going the whole game, but we've been up and down. But I think we truly are losing flaws each game, which is really, really important to me at least.
Yeah, last year we had a great group of captains. We're just kind of trying to do the same thing for our team, just continuing, the leadership, trying to make sure we're all on task. But so far we have a great group of guys behind us, so it's making our job a lot easier.
Sure. And I was going to say, now you got a lot of good teams in the division, in Division One. So far, things are rolling. Anybody in particular you have to gear up differently for?
No, we're just going to keep worrying about what we got to do. And like I said before, is if we come out and do our game plan and execute the way that we want to play, we'll put ourselves in a position to be successful.
And you guys played for Coach Hawley?
We did last year.
I'm going to don't listen. I was just going to ask, differences that you've seen so far in the coaching styles.
Yeah, it's definitely different. Coach Hawley had been there for 20 plus years. I'd say the pace for sure. I think the pace now is a lot faster. Not in any sort of different or bad way, but I like it a lot. Just faster all the way around practice, more energy, I'd say, personally.
Yeah, it's like having 2 different teachers, go from one year to next year. There's 2 different, teaching styles, 2 different coaching styles. Personally, I love both of them, I love the way he's run that team, It's a nice way to connect to our coach. He's doing a great job, obviously, so. Yeah.
Being able to adapt.
Exactly.
Right. Well, there you go, firsthand. You're doing a good job, and keep up this good work. All of you gentlemen, I mean, what we saw today, it's rolling. Just keep it rolling, and we'll be covering you throughout the season. Thanks for joining us today on the Seacoast Sports Forum.
No problem. Thank you.
Well, as we came up with that in that interview, they're a juggernaut. The program that Matt Brewster inherited from Jerry Hawley obviously has a lot of talent on it. Scoring wise this year, they just keep rolling on. And I think, Sam, you mentioned the game against Bishop Girton. That's a motivator. They lost it, but that's a motivator to just don't lose the focus, keep it rolling. Now, Jim, you've seen a lot of teams in Division One. Size them up for us.
BG's the top team. And that BG Exeter game, I bet it was well attended because every coach I talked to throughout the last week was headed to watch that one. One of the other nuances of lacrosse is the face-off. So it's as if after every basket, you went back to center court and had another jump ball. Ice hockey does it, goes to center ice, but then the play continues. But possession of the ball is huge in the game of lacrosse. And possession of the ball comes from face-off. And there are athletes, lacrosse players, that are known as FOGOs. So they're face-off, get off. That is their entire role. They go to camps, they go to clinics just to do it. They end up going to college on scholarship just to do face-offs. And Bishop Girton's got the best face-off guy right now. And so they.
Jim, I was going to say, I will tell you, I'm very familiar with face-off guys. My nephew currently plays for Keene State, and he's a sophomore at Keene State right now, and was recruited and became a scholarship athlete based on his face-off skills.
Wow!
And he is the face-off guy. He's not a Fugo guy. because he plays. He's a very good goal scorer as well. But his face-off percentage is one of the tops in his conference right now. So you can get recruited by face-offs for all you lacrosse players out there.
Absolutely. What they do is they use a particular stick. They take the face off, win it, throw it, and run off and get a different stick.
Right.
That's
Yes.
what they're doing. So anyway, talking to the coaches on Wednesday, the BG face-off man dominated the game. So BG had the ball more than Exeter had the ball. And so, that's that's something it's not a surprise to anybody. I'm not telling you top secret here. That's something they got to figure out. But BG and Exeter look like the top two teams. Pinkerton is, in that third spot, and they're down a little from where they usually are. Brian O'Reilly has stepped out, and a new fella's there, and he's doing a great job.
I didn't know that.
They're very, very good defensively, and they're sort of still figuring out the offensive piece of it. But they'll be there. And then South, Natural South, Londonderry, Bedford, there's a bunch of teams in there that can play a little bit.
Now, are you officiating girls' games as well?
No, different rules.
Oh, okay.
Soccer is great. Soccer, same rules, same concept, same book, same everything. Women's lacrosse, they don't have on helmets. There's a whole thing with airspace in your bubble, and you can't get a stick in it, and free, and you can't. They're two. It's French and Russian.
That's a good comparison.
They're completely different rules.
Okay, I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, very, very different games.
And the girls' team is doing very well under their new coach. So it's been an interesting season and a fun sport to watch. I went up and watched one of the early games during the spring break, and they were playing against Dover that day. That was the day we did the interview with Matt and the two captains. And, it's going to be an interesting end of the season. Now, Sam, they've announced the playoffs, correct?
They have. The playoff calendar is out for spring sports, and we can talk about baseball and softball a little later. But while we're on lacrosse, you need to circle your calendar for these dates, because in Exeter will be the hub of boys lacrosse and girls lacrosse in June, or I should say, all the games are in June. But in Division One, the semifinals will be played at Bill Ball Stadium on Wednesday, June 8th at 5 and 7 o'clock. And in Division Two, I'll just check that in Division One. The semifinals will be at Bill Ball Stadium, Division One, 5 and 7. But the key date is going to be Sunday, June 12th. Sunday, June 12th will be Super Sunday for boys lacrosse, and it will be held in Exeter, because the Division 3 final will be at 2:30. The Division 2 final will be at 5 o'clock. And the Division 1 final that we got our fingers crossed that Exeter will be there will be at 7:30 on Sunday, June 12th. So that's a key date to circle your calendars on. Over on the girls lacrosse side, Bill Ball Stadium will host the Division I semifinals on June 4th at 5 and 7, and they will host the Division I girls final on June 7th at 7 o'clock. So both boys and girls finals action coming up. But that day, Sunday, June 12th, that's a big, big day.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, from what I've seen so far, I think it'll be busy, and I'm hoping to we see some Blue Hawk action those particular dates you were talking about. I think we will. You go ahead.
Couple quick things I was thinking. So Maddie Brewster, when the process they interviewed and they announced he was going to do it, I had a quick reaction because Maddie Brewster was an outstanding high school athlete at Merrimack High School. His senior year, he was one of the top ice hockey goaltenders in the state at Merrimack. He was out, they said the name and I went, "Ooh, wow," because he was very, very good. But he went on to play college lacrosse, I believe, at Sacred Heart, and had a nice career and is involved in the club. And the word, Jerry had a great program and laid the foundation, but Matt's done a great job and seems like a great fit to the coaching staff over there at Exeter High School. The other thing, seems like we're on the Seacoast and we're talking about lacrosse. I think perhaps the top Division II team in the state is the Clippers over at Portsmouth. Seems like we're a Seacoast show here. Chad Vischer's got, they won it last year, but they look like the cream of the crop right now. Wintercunnet's in that conversation. They're very, very good, very, very athletic, very, very well coached, and I think they'll be heard from. But I think perhaps the top two Division II teams are in the Seacoast as well this year, Wintercunnet and Portsmouth.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. We'll be busy in June.
Jim, I wanted to just shift gears a little bit here. This has certainly been a year for transition as far as Blue Hawk sports are concerned. You stepping down as hockey and soccer coach, replaced by Paul DeMariano. Kevin McQueen stepping down as baseball coach, and Bruce Joyce stepping in. And now the boys and girls lacrosse programs changing. Jerry Hawley leaving after years of success at Exeter. What are those challenges of those young coaches stepping up and stepping into the shoes of, quote, legends like you and Hawley and Kevin McQueen?
Well, you sort of forget about us because, we all had fun and we all had a lot of success, and it was great and it was a lot of fun. But I think it's kind of a new wave of really capable young coaches. And that's, people say, do you miss it? Do you miss it? And absolutely you miss it. But, to have Danny Curran step in and take over the soccer program and have, just great success right off the bat. And Paul DiMarino, 3 great seasons, finally kind of got that over the hump a little bit, got to that semifinal in his 3rd season in the ice hockey. Bruce Joyce, really capable, not quite as young, but
he's going to have to owe me for that comment.
And now Brady Brewster. So, I look at I say to people all the time, people say, how does Exeter have so many good sports across the board? And it's coaching consistency. Billy been there I was there for a long time. Queen was there for a long time. Holmesy's now there. People go there and stay because it's such a great school, such a great environment, such a great expectations. And, so Billy, in his later years here is developing the next group of, and I was just talking about the guys, but Deb Grott in that program, and Megan Young, who exceeds us all. Coaches go there and stay, and Billy is doing a great job of finding that next wave of coaches that are going to be there and have the success that we had. And it's such a great place to be. And the foundation is so well established, and the expectations, and these guys are doing a great job.
Well, one thing.
Then you have Kristen. You also have Kristen Morissette sitting there in the athletic office.
I knew I was going to
just controlling all of them.
Yeah. Kristen, Megan, Deb, just through both sides of the gender, just great coaches that really enjoy what they're doing and get the best out of kids. And so now you haven't quite seen that turnover yet in the women's program as much, but in the men's program, you're right. Now you've got Danny and Paul and Bruce and Maddie Brewster now, and I can see those guys being there for a while and maybe exceeding our success.
I was going to say what I take away from what I've seen over the years, and I know I go back way back with Kevin McQueen when he was starting at Exeter, and with obviously the football with Bill Ball and basketball, Jeff Holmes, all you coaches built a program, and you just didn't leave spare parts along the side of the road that somebody had to try to rebuild the car or a program out of. Matt Brewster, good example. Any of the coaches that have taken over, they had something solid. Jerry Hawley left Matt a real solid foundation to work with. And as we saw in that interview, when I asked the captains about differences, sure, there's going to be some differences in philosophies or strategies or whatever. We've seen it. Sam and I have seen it at UNH, the big change in football, the UNH Wildcats. Matter of fact, when I was up at Bill Ball Stadium doing that interview, somebody came up to me and said, "What do you think about the Wildcats this season?" And I said, Rick Santos has got his act together. He's got a great program that Coach Matt gave him. All he has to do is tweak it, do what he wants with it, and he will. And I think they're going to be fine. Everything is going to be fine. It's going to be, it's not a rebuilding program. And that's the key. You guys left a good foundation. And that's what I'm seeing in especially the Blue Hawk Nation.
And I think the other piece, and it speaks to Billy, is the mutual respect amongst the fraternity of coaches. I mean, I said to people all the time, Deb Grott and I would share the facility for practice. Megan Young and I shared a field for practice for 20 years. Mm-hmm. Billy and I would sometimes practice on the same field at the same time. I'm not sure that's happening everywhere. You know, yeah. The football coach and we all help, you know, Jeff would help me with things and I would help Jeff, and we shared athletes and had that mutual respect between didn't matter if it was gender, it was all the sports were equal and were important, and the coaches respected each other, and that trickles down to kids. And I remember we were at a scrimmage. We went to Manchester West in the early 2000s, mid-aughts, as you call it. And we were going to play West soccer in a scrimmage. And the football team was practicing. And they should have gotten off. The time was up. And it was our time. And finally, the soccer coach went over and spoke to the football coach, who just was insulting and inappropriate. And my kids were mad. And their initial reaction was, that would not happen at Exeter High School because of the mutual respect amongst coaches, mm-hmm. that all the programs were important and they were a piece of the educational experience at Exeter High School. And that comes from Vic Sokol and Mike Monahan, Bill Ball. And again, there's your foundation.
Right, exactly. And again, the takeaway for me was that you see that the kids, I think you used the phrase, have bought into the idea that you can do more than one sport now, and there are multi-sport athletes out there, and they get something from each coach. There's something that they take away from each coach, whether it was playing hockey for you or soccer with you, basketball for Jeff. You know, there's that give and take. Sam, you brought up another successful coach and program that's rolling along. Let's give the girls softball their due. They're rolling right along as well. So you've got other sports that have been going on this spring. Let's talk about them.
Okay, well, let's go to softball, where Concord right now is the top team in the state. They're undefeated at 9-0, but right on their heels, there's the Exeter Blue Hawks at 8-1. Londonderry is also 8-1. Kristen Morissette's squad, seem to be doing it with pitching, defense, and timely hitting. They're getting all three things done. And they suffered their first loss recently, but again, those are learning events for these young athletes. And I think Exeter will be there at the end when we get to softball standings. Nice articles on Kristen Beebe and Annie Christiana in the Seacoast Online this week, highlighting those two young ladies. And so that's going to be a team to watch. Now, over on the baseball side, where we're talking about Bruce Joyce taking over the program from Kevin McQueen, Exeter's pitching staff seems to be the real foundation there. They've got some hurlers on that squad. They're at 6-2. currently in fourth place, tied with Nashua South at 6-2, looking up at Pinkerton and Portsmouth, who are both undefeated, 10-0 and 9-0 respectively. So watching the home stretch here in baseball and softball is going to be really interesting.
And Kristen Morissette, she's been in that program, as you mentioned. She doesn't want to mention how many years, but a long time, and has a successful program that, again, just keeps rebuilding. And this year, those two players you mentioned that were in the article, among a real solid staff that she's got that she can depend on. And you know, they one thing I took away from that article was that they realized they lost the focus in the game they did lose, but it's a motivator to just keep focused, go for the prize, which is obviously getting into the championship game and see what happens. So, and do we have dates on that? Did you have the dates on the softball?
Yeah, on the softball, the Division I softball semifinals will be at Plymouth State, as it's traditionally at Plymouth State. That's going to be on June 8th, and the finals will be at Plymouth State on June 11th in Division I. And on the baseball side, the Division I semifinals will be on June 8th at Holman Stadium in Nashua. And again, as traditionally held, on June 11th, the final will be at Northeast Delta Dental in Manchester.
There you go. There you go.
Speaking of Kristen, sometime in the last month, Kristen received a union leader recognizes some of the top coaches in the state. So Walter Smith Coaches Hall of Fame, and Kristen was one of the recipients.
Yep.
To go into that with the union leader, along with some other outstanding people. But great honor for Chris, and well deserved. She's got a great group, and you were highlighting BB and Christiana, but Summer LeClaire hit for the cycle the other day.
That's right.
Which is something that's kind of rare in both baseball and softball. So they're doing a great job. And you're talking about the pitching staff. You know, they've gotten some great pitchers, and one of their top pitchers is Parker Lendrum, who's headed to SNU, and he's got an injury and hasn't even pitched yet this year. So they sort of got him hoping to come back before the season's over. So both those teams are really doing a great job.
And Sam, do you have anything on the tennis? Because I know the boys tennis program is doing well, but the girls are really rolling along.
Yeah, sure. The girls tennis program is certainly up there. They're currently ranked third in the state. Derryfield is 9-0. Dover's 8-0, but then there's the Exeter girls tennis team standing there at 7-1, followed by Central and Hanover at 6-2. So they're going to be there at the end when the playoff seedings are handed out. On the boys' side, Exeter needs to get it going here in the last couple of weeks. They're at 3-4, so they're going to try to get above 500 as they go down the stretch here, with Hanover and Bedford being the top teams in Division I boys tennis. And as far as the tournament is concerned, a lot of different tennis dates are around because there's an individual tournament in the state, and then there's a team tennis tournament in the state. So as we get closer to those tournaments and we get the seedings and the pairings, we'll bring our viewers up to date on that.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, let's shift gears. As we do every program, we get into the regional scene. Let's give a take of what you're seeing in the playoffs for both the NBA and the NHL. Coach Tufts, let's start off with your favorite, the NHL.
I think the Bruins in trouble. Carolina is bigger, stronger, and faster.
Right.
And I think they'll go with Swayman next time round, but I'm not sure the result's going to change any. The Bruins, I enjoy watching the Bruins. We're on all the time here at this house, but they're aging, and Carolina looks pretty tough. One of the things that, sort of texting with some of my fellow coaches, one of the real highlights of the NHL playoffs this year have been the scoring. There's not many 1-0 games.
No.
You had Tampa and Toronto. Toronto absolutely waxed Tampa in the first game, 5-0. But Tampa came back and scored, I think, 8 goals last night.
That's right.
So the scoring is really, I would not want to be a goaltender in this NHL as it is right now, which is
well, there was an overtime game the other day that the goalie had 79 saves, and that's not even the record.
And he lost.
And he lost.
And it was kind of interesting because, again, talking local, so Sherskin for the Rangers made 79 saves, but in the other end was Casey DeSmit from Rochester, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
It's been kind of fun to watch the Pittsburgh Bruins games because you've had Jeremy Swayman from UMaine in one end and Casey DeSmit from Rochester and UNH. So it's been a UNH UMaine battle the last two times those guys have played. So, it's been great hockey, and it's going to be great hockey all the way down.
For me, I don't want to be the team that gets in front of the freight train that's known as the Colorado Avalanche, because I think they are not. I think they are the team to beat this year, and I think they will be holding the cup at the end of the season.
What about you, Jim? You think about?
So Colorado is, but unfortunately, they have really stumbled in the playoffs, and it'll be interesting because they've got Bobrovsky, who's lifted the cup before. Is now their number one, and I think that's going to solidify them a little bit. But I won't be surprised to see. I won't be surprised to see Florida and Toronto battle it in the East with Carolina there as well. And I think Edmonton's going to give Colorado a run in the West.
Okay.
And again, all high scoring. I think they're going to be. Edmonton, Colorado is going to be a, 7-6.
Yes.
And Florida, Toronto could be very similar. So it's going to be, I think there's some very, very good hockey teams and they're going to be high scoring matches.
So Sam, now shifting to the NBA, it was a cakewalk for the Celtics over the Nets, but now it could be tough in their second round and to proceed further. So give us your take.
Well, I thought the Celtics were going to be at a real disadvantage when they did not have Marcus Smart in game number 2 against Milwaukee, but it didn't make it any difference. Jaylen Brown and Tatum just went off on the Bucks and they had an easy win. Now going into Milwaukee, this is going to be a tough challenge for the Celtics right there. So, I'm not certainly don't get too high on the Celtics yet. They've really got to battle back, but getting Smart back is going to be a key to see if they can steal one of those games in Milwaukee this coming weekend.
And as far as the playoffs down the line, what are you predicting?
Well, I think Miami and the Celtics would be a wonderful Eastern Conference semifinal if that were to happen. Miami, Milwaukee will be good as well. Over on the Western side, though, it looks like it's heading for a Golden State Phoenix final over in the West. But I'll tell you, watching those Memphis Grizzlies and a player by the name of Ja Morant is a lot of fun. That young man has got a future in the league. He's going to be fun to watch for years.
He's worth the price of admission.
What about you, Coach Tufts? What do you think about the NBA and what's going on? What are you predicting?
I think the Celtics are going to either live by the 3 or die by the 3. And I think you look at the first 2 games. Game 2 they couldn't miss, or at least could make enough threes. But game 1 they couldn't, hit the ocean. So I think it's going to come down to that. I think Milwaukee is going to dominate the paint. And despite the fact I think Horford and Williams are playing well, but I think it's going to come down to can Boston shoot their way past Milwaukee, and I think Philadelphia without Embiid is in trouble, and I'd love to see Steph Curry get by Memphis, but boy, I think Memphis is they're pretty athletic.
Yeah.
They're pretty athletic.
And Sam, you had something you wanted to ask the coach about, and it's a good time to bring that up.
Oh, sure, Jim. As we turn the calendar to June, I always think about the annual Special Olympic Games. Can you give us an update on Special Olympics in New Hampshire?
Sure. So we're back in practice. All the teams are practicing, and I would say that the result of the last 2 years being under the umbrella of COVID is we're slow to come out. So sometimes I have 50 athletes, I have 30 athletes. Newmarket sometimes has a dozen athletes, they have 4 athletes. And there's several teams that seem to be missing. But we've been in Exeter, we've been practicing since April 1, twice a week with 30 plus athletes and 40 high school kids supporting them and peer coaches. The norm is that there are each May 5 area meets in New Hampshire. Exeter hosting 1, Central, Monadnock, North Country, and that leads into the June state games at UNH. And this spring, coming back into action, there are going to be 2 area games, one on Sunday, well, they're actually both same day. On Sunday, May 22nd, Exeter will host one half of the state, and Concord will host the other half of the state. And those will be the only meets this spring. We are not going to have a large gathering at UNH in June. We will host an event. It's at Exeter High School on the track. Anybody who's looking for something to do, it takes me somewhere between 60 and 80 volunteers to run that meet. And again, I'm soliciting help from people that haven't been involved. The last meet we had was May of 19.
Yeah, right.
So, we're looking forward to it. The kids are excited. The kids enjoy. It's going to be great to have practice with the sun shining today because it's been a little damp and windy a couple of times. But we will host the Seacoast plus a few others meet on Sunday, May 22nd from 8 till about 1 o'clock on the facility at Exeter High School. We're really excited.
That's good.
So if people want to volunteer, how do they get in touch with you?
They can do it through, I'm still on the SAU website. So Tufts at SAU16.org. They've let me continue that because of my involvement in Special Olympics. But if they can't figure that out, show up on May 22nd. We'll find a supporting task that they will have. Anybody that comes to those events then says to me, when's the next one?
There you go.
Because it's such an enjoyable experience.
There you go. Yeah. Well, we and you know what I love about this, Jim, is it's a sense of normalcy coming back into our lives again. You know, this is good. We get people out and doing stuff again. You know, it just the 2 years we lost has kind of been. Well, let's hope we don't repeat that again, right?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. Now, 2-minute drill time, gentlemen. I don't know, Sam. Do you want the coach to go first, or do you want to go first?
Yeah, because I'm gonna rant for like 2 minutes.
Okay, it's going to be a 5-minute drill for Sam. All right, Coach. 2-minute drill time for you.
I guess I'll piggyback on what you just talked about, Sherm. It's great to have kids back out there competing. It's great to be on the field with the lacrosse kids, to be on the track with the Special Olympics kids, to be able to watch baseball and softball, and know they're going to be tournament games, that they're going to be at neutral sites, that UNH is competing, that stadiums are packed, and you can watch hockey and NHL and NBA playoff games with everybody there, and we're getting back to kids being kids and being able to compete and being able to have graduations and be able to have award ceremonies. That we're back into the expectations in life as we know it, and I've enjoyed that. And I know the kids I've been involved with have enjoyed that.
Amen to that. Amen. Sam, now you got, we've been forewarned. It's going to be a rant.
Okay, I've got a micro rant and a macro rant. Okay. The micro rant is the Yankees win 11 games in a row, and the Red Sox are 8 games out of first place in the East, and it's only the second week of May. I'm tired of John Henry and Sam Kennedy and Chaim Bloom telling me we like our team. How can you like a team that has a bullpen like the Red Sox have right now, and a pitching staff that they can't figure out who's pitching from day to day, and pitchers who don't get vaccinated? Now, I've got a real problem with, poor Alex Cora. He is stuck in a mess right now because he can't find a closer right now. He's got Matt Barnes, can't do a thing. They haven't won an extra inning game at all during this season so far. And they've got guys like Diekman and Saramora and all these retread guys that are just in there right now. I mean, as Dan Shaughnessy says in the Globe, we are now the Tampa Bay Red Sox. They're not spending any money. They didn't go out and get any players, and they're trying to tell me that this is a good team, and they're not a good team right now. And things have better turn around really fast, and try to get something going with that pitching staff right now, because the Red Sox are in big trouble. On a macro viewpoint, going to stay with baseball. How can we watch baseball games when you're a team and you have 27 outs? And traditionally, almost every single game, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 strikeouts of those 27 outs. How can that continue right now? On the other hand, you've got guys swinging for the fences on every pitch, knowing that they have to hit a home run to up their pay. You've got umpires right now that are not calling strikes. And so hitters are at a disadvantage. So there's no offense. You've got almost every game going under the total that is projected for that game, because no runs are being scored. The debate right now on the macro is, do you bring in robotic umpires? Get rid of the regular guys and bring in the robotic umpires. I'm thinking that if you want to get the offense up in the game right now, you have to bring in the robotic umpires, because the hitters right now are at such a disadvantage. So again, I haven't made a decision right now which way to go on that. It's a chicken or the egg kind of thing. What's causing the problem in baseball right now? But they've got to get it squared away. And
then there's the baseball. Ahead. The baseball, Sam. Is the controversy of the baseball itself?
The humidors, I heard a report the other day that they're still using baseballs from last year that are not the same baseballs that they're going to use in the second half of the year.
And they were saying, a pitcher was saying the other day, he could get a different baseball within the same inning that has a different feel to it than the one he just threw. Right.
But I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad for the pitchers, because they're getting all those strikeouts because the hitters just want to hit home runs right now.
Right. And then sometimes they hit it and it just doesn't go anywhere.
It doesn't go anywhere. Yeah, we've seen a lot of balls die on the warning track this season. Finally, Sherm, I know you've got to get Sherm's got to get his time here, because he's got a lot to say. He's got a lot to say. But Sherm, Kentucky Derby coming up this weekend. The winner will be Epicenter, so you can take that to the bank.
and we know one guy that won't be there, right?
Yeah, he's got white hair.
Yeah, Baffert is out. All right. Well, my 2-minute drill, it's going to be real simple. We talked about it last program. It's coming together, hopefully in a couple of weeks, maybe, or very soon. We're going to do a running show. Talk to my friend Steve Burris. He's on board. Bob Glowacki, our producer, he'll be part of it. And I'm looking to get a couple of guests on. One in particular, I didn't realize I graduated from Exeter High School with, who has a running business of sorts. So we'll be talking to him, hopefully, and getting him on board. So that'll be in the future. The other thing I wanted to mention that we do the televised version of this, but also this becomes a podcast. So if you can't watch the video, you can always listen to the audio, and it's on all the major platforms, whatever, Apple, Spotify, Google, who am I leaving out? Stitcher, you name it, wherever you get your fine podcasts, it's out there. And the other thing is we're going to be tweaking the site a little bit. You'll be able to go soon to Seacoast Sports Forum on our own YouTube page. That's coming soon. So we're doing a little tweaking here. So just stand by. We'll keep you posted. But the podcast, that, like I say, is very simple to get. And the TV, well, Bob does a great job producing it for us. And we want to thank our guest today, Matt Brewster, and the captains from the Lacrosse team. They did a nice job. And for our Lacrosse 101, Coach Tufts, you did a great job for filling us in on a sport that it was a Jesuit missionary in Canada in 1637 that came up with lacrosse. There you go. Well, thank you to Jim Tufts, also Sam Bruno. On behalf of those gentlemen, Sherm Chester, inviting you to join us for our next edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum. Be sure to subscribe to Exeter TV on YouTube and hit the bell to get notified about new episodes of the Seacoast Sports Forum and other local content. Follow the Sports Forum team behind the scenes on our Facebook and Twitter pages, and send us your game footage and photos to our email. That's seacoastsportsforum.extv@gmail.com. This is Sherm Chester inviting you to join us for the next edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum.